Thank you, Madam Chair Lenora. I should like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the Vanua of Rewa, and particularly the former Tuinodo, Ratu Iso and Damu Damu, who made the descendants of Girmitius, Luveni Ratu. And that recognition, adaptation extended to Professor Brijlal. I'm a bit of a crybaby when it comes to occasions like this. And as I left home, my wife, Claire, said to me, please don't spoil the things by crying. So I'll try not to. I'd like to express my appreciation to Professor Biman Prasad and the National Federation Party for organizing this commemoration of Professor Brijlal's life and work. And I heartily commend NFP, founded on the struggle of the cane farmers, paying their respect for the son of a sugarcane farmer from Tambia, Madhwata Vanwalevu, as the former Prime Minister has said. Professor Chandra P. Dulare, economist and former acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Fiji, and close friend of Professor Brijlal, and in fact a friend of all of us, called me on Christmas morning to share the sad news. I then shared this deeply saddening news with Claire's letter, and we remained shocked for the rest of the day. On being informed, Shamima Ali cried over the phone, recalling her last visit to Canberra and spending time with Brijlal, discussing issues with him, Fiji issues with him. I have known Brij since 1971. That's 50 years now. We did the preliminary 2 program, later called the Foundation Year program at USP. I got to know him from our world history class, which was taught by Tony Chappell. It was Brij who initiated our friendship. Sometime after the return of the first graded assignments in the world history course, he came looking for me. He had obtained an A grade, and having inquired who else had got a similar grade, he was curious to see me and perhaps check out the competition. At this point, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Kesaya Seniloli and Dr. Morgan Tuimalia and Reverend Aquila Ambaki and others who, is that you them are sitting there? Raymond Bolambola, who were our contemporaries at USP at that time. Thank you very much for coming. During my first year of degree studies, I had a bit of a name for myself as a regular drunkard every weekend and a trouble causer in the dining hall dances, and a bit of notoriety there. But holding these secretive drinking parties in the student hall gave us a lot of pleasure. And I dare say on a couple of occasions, Brijlal joined us and really enjoyed himself. This is before he got friendly with Padma. And there's a whole story around that because Brij was extremely studious. He used to regularly apologize to the rest of us who were his friends that, sorry, I might not have greeted you this morning or this afternoon because I don't see very well. In fact, he wore very thick glasses even then. And I remember a conversation that included some Lambasa people, such as Sheikh Basha, who urged him to return to Lambasa and save his eyes rather than spend his time studying. So even then, poor Bridge had eye problems, but extremely motivated and studious. Like him and many of us, USP made us. In an article, Fiji Made Me, but which Fiji is mine, that appeared a month ago in Island Business News, he wrote, after high school in Lambasa Secondary School near Lambasa College, he came to USP. So he says of USP, then the University of the South Pacific in 1968, just as we were completing our high school, the founding of that institution marked a turning point in the history of Fiji and the broader Pacific region. Until then, only a small number of students on government or their parents' scholarship went abroad for tertiary education. After USP, tertiary education became available to bright students from poor families. To USP, our generation owes more than it is possible to express in words. Very eloquently put, and I agree with him completely. At the University of the South Pacific, he found the place to be a real eye-opener. It was on the Lodala campus that we met and mingled with students from other ethnic groups for the first time and from different parts of Fiji and from wider South Pacific region. That broadening experience has remained with me. The regional character of the university is its great strength. Its loss would be grievous. So I'll jump some parts of it. You might recollect that at that time USP had a magazine called Unispec, and all kinds of parody was made of Parliament. Because Parliament at one point discussed that university students should wear school uniforms, or uniforms like, what you had in school, because the girls were wearing, mini skirts and bell bottoms, and so the parliamentarians got it in kind. And Bridge thoroughly enjoyed the writings. In his undergraduate days, a very important mentor was June Cook. In Chalo Jahaji, published in 2012, Brijlal states that my best history teacher at USP, without doubt, was June Cook, a middle-aged, chain-smoking English woman, a Cambridge graduate. Just a quick aside to just add a lighter note, June Cook used to be a neighbor of Warden Narsi and Mr. Judson Gray, a Peace Corps volunteer whom I replaced. This was the old cottage, which is now the HR office of the university. So, and they had a common bathroom. The bathroom door did not reach right to the bottom. And one of the younger women in that block of single staff housing complained that, there was a peeping Tom peering from under the door while she was having a shower. So June Cook piped up and said, I wish someone did that to me. So she was obviously an inspiration for Brijlal. In my hurriedly written tribute to Bridge on Christmas Day, I said that he was a very diligent student. I should have added he was very highly motivated student as well as a disciplined student. And no doubt, the friendship with Padma actually generated further sort of energy in terms of performance. But Bridge was also involved in student activism, unlike some of the other students that we had. And there are two occasions that I wish to recall. In 1973, the dining hall staff went on strike over conditions and of work and the kind of supervision they had. And many of us joined the dining hall staff in solidarity. And I remember one day while we were talking about this whole affair, Bridge actually jumped on the, it could have been the chair or could have been even the table because he was short, and gave a speech, encouraging everybody to show their support for the workers. This strike went on for a week, but hunger got the better of some of the students, and we got divided and petered out. But Bridge was there throughout that strike action. The second activism that he was associated with is associated with the first deportation of an academic from the University of the South Pacific. Professor Theo MacDonald, who was a brilliant mathematician and philosopher, was deported by the Alliance Party government for his involvement in Fiji politics. The nature of Fiji politics that was alleged was that he prepared pamphlets that were put at the Suva bus station and other places for people to read. They're written very simply, talking about the oligarchy of chiefs and business interests that rule the country. Needless to say, Theo MacDonald was a Marxist. But later on, it was rumored that his close associates were none other than Brijlal and Padmanabhi. So, for some reason, I never verified this with Bridge. Maybe somebody else could tell that story. In the Island Business article that I mentioned, he highlights the role of his teachers as being role models and mentors. Teachers for us were figures of great authority, exemplars of correct conduct, always respectfully addressed formally. They took their profession seriously rather than as a stepping stone for a career elsewhere in the civil service. They pushed us hard. Some of the examples has influenced my own teaching career, the capstone of which was award of an INU Top Supervisor Award. And teaching has remained the cornerstone of my only career, spanning 4 decades. He talks about segregated education in Fiji and actually gives a lot of credit to Mr. Krishna Dutt, who will be speaking later on, and Professor Subramani and Professor Vijay Mishra, who were all teaching at Lambasa College there. So I'll go a bit faster and say that Bridge completed his master's at the University of British Columbia. And even then, USP politics ensured that we did not give him leave without pay. He had to resign to go to UBC, and subsequently won a scholarship to go to do his PhD at Australian National University, where he actually did the research and went through 45,000 Gurmit passes and records to write his PhD, and his PhD is actually in 2 massive volumes. He taught at USP, he taught at UPNG, he taught at the University of Hawaii and at ANU. He was the founding editor of the Contemporary Pacific Conversations in Canberra and a long-term member of the Journal of Pacific History. I've jumped a little bit. I just go back and just acknowledge this thing. In their tribute, the Pacific History Association, entitled Mourns the Loss of its former president, Bridge Villal, which was shared with me by Professor Morgan Timalili Fano, sitting here. The executive of Pacific History Association noted that he was indeed the founding editor of Contemporary Pacific and conversations, and was in the editorial board of the Journal of Pacific History. He was also the founding director of the Center for the Contemporary Pacific at ANU. He was a trailblazing academic, as pointed out by Mr. Rambuka, and I don't need to reiterate that. But I should say that the Pacific History Association executive statement elaborated the numerous honors and awards bestowed on him. His many honors and awards include being made a Fellow of the Australian Humanities Academy in 1996 and receiving the Centenary Medal of the Government of Australia for contribution to humanities in 2001, and the Pacific Distinguished Scholar Medal in 2005. He was made an officer of the Order of Fiji and a member of the Order of Australia in 2015. Mr. Rambuka talked about the books he has written, massive numbers. I think at the last count it was more than 30, but I read a source that said more than 45 books, and of course numerous journals. What this entails as a fellow academic, I can say, would be millions and millions of pages of notes, millions and millions of pages of draft papers, and then, of course, millions and millions of pages of the final products. Besides formal writing, he delved into nonfiction, and Mr. Tulsi Stoa and the story of his kaka in Stopover by Bruce Connew are most readable and touching, and he won an award for Mr. Tulsi Stoa. He had huge PIS team, and I don't need to go into details of it as Biman is looking at his watch, but I wanted to point out that he wasn't a narrow historian. He wasn't a narrow historian at all. He was widely read. And this was pointed out in a post by Charlie Charters last night, where he notes, I was struck by his choice of a phrase from W.B. Yeats, the Irish Civil War, in the Irish Civil War poem, 1919, as the title of his autobiography, Leveling Wind. It seemed such a surprising thing for Bridge to have done. This otherworld literary reference has little to do with the Pacific. And yet here is Bridge using W.B. Yeats in his, as the title of his book. Nowhere near the Pacific or in Fiji and Indo-Fijians in particular. So quite amazing. Very well read, a very erudite person. Mr. Rambuka talked about his work in the Constitutional Review Commission. I just wanted to add, he had a lifelong friendship with Mr. Tomasi Vakatora after that. And of course, you've also mentioned, sir, about his esteem given by the Millennium Book 20th Century Fiji, people who shaped this nation. So I don't need to get into that. Bridge regarded Fiji as his home. When he was doing his PhD, he eventually ended up in the village of his ancestors, and he was cordially invited, a lot of emotion, hugs, and someone actually touched his feet, and they invited him to stay on in Fiji, in the village. He was theirs, and to teach in the village school. But Bridge, in his large podcast interview, said that he realized that India was the home of his grandparents. Fiji was his country's birth. Fiji was his home. And he always wrote about how island life has affected Indo-Fijians compared to people in the subcontinent. So, heading towards a conclusion, around 2007, 2008, when Biman speaks, he can elaborate on this, Padma and Bridge actually purchased a house in Silver Point. This was the INU research, house for people who came from INU. So they bought it, and the intention was to retire here. They were living there in 2009. Padma, who is an environmental scientist and resource economist, was working for the International Conservation International Conservation Union for Nature, ICUN. And Bridge wanted to carry out an in-depth study of an informal settlement, what we call squatter settlement in Fiji. But around this time, the military government begged Vorongai Bainimarama decided to deport the Australian and New Zealand High Commissioners. The Australian media turned to the Fiji expert Bridge and asked him his views. And Bridge very wisely said that these actions were not in the best interests of Fiji. And that triggered the actions against him. So in early November 2009, the current Commissioner of Police, Siddhiweni Giliho, then a senior military officer of the Republic of the Fiji Military Forces, detained Professor Bridgelal. In the interrogation that followed, Bridgelal was slapped and spat upon, and his spectacles were smashed. Without specs, he could barely see. And he was told that if he did not catch the next flight out of Fiji, his body would have to be retrieved from the Suva mortuary by his relatives. And for reasons best known to Fijian Prime Minister Vorongai Bainimarama, the 2006 military coup leader, and the Attorney General Ayaz Sayed Qayyum, both Bridge and Padma were banned from the country of their birth. And Mr. Rambuka has talked about this. And there have been many people making appeals. Biman raised this in the parliament. Other people have written, political leaders, community leaders, letter writers in the Fiji Times, appealing. On 24th October, a group of prominent citizens, namely Reverend Aquila Yambaki, Shamima Ali, Tessa McKenzie, Professor Tupeni Bamba, Professor Satish Chand, Professor Crosswalls, Dr. Morgan Tuimalyali Ifano, Dr. Claire Slater, and I wrote to the Prime Minister following his successful state visit to Australia and New Zealand, and his decision to lift the ban on banned foreign journalists like Sean Donny and Barbara Driver. We noted that during his visit, Prime Minister Bainimarama warmly welcomed Fijians abroad to return to Fiji, include to invest. So we said, in keeping with this spirit, please lift the ban on Professor Bridgelal and Padma Narsi Lal. We said they were distinguished scholars of whom Fiji should be proud of. We pointed to their humble family backgrounds and the fact they had extended family members and relatives, as well as numerous friends and colleagues in Fiji who have been looking forward to seeing them come home. Bainimarama never responded to this letter. Never. A former colleague and dear friend, Professor Eric Waddell, said in an email message that it took him 2 to 3 days to absorb the terrible news of Bridgelal's passing. Bridge is yet another giant of the Pacific who has departed too soon. And he added, and the added tragedy is that he was exiled. He was an exiled giant. He could never return home on account of the cynicism and cruelty of Bainimarama at all. The gross violation of his human rights and his involuntary exile took their toll on the good professor's health. Personally, I'm deeply saddened by the loss of Brijlal, as he was a very close and dear friend. We have lost an iconic and exemplary scholar, an outstanding public intellectual who came from, as Mr. Rambuka said, from a very humble sugarcane farming background. He has left a huge and rich legacy of books and articles that will be indispensable for readers and students of Fiji history. The Gurmit of Fiji history, the Gurmit, and the late 20th and early 20th century Fiji politics. Professor Choeli Pateaki, in his tribute, said, Professor Lal was a special son of Fiji and the world. Fiji and the world is so much the poorer without him. While we are deeply saddened that we will not see him again, we are blessed with the rich legacy that he has left behind, with his writings, teachings, and lifelong lessons. His legacy makes him one of the most popular and well-known Fijians. As Yogi, his daughter, has said, he'll return home to Lambasa, to Tambia someday. And as Mr. Rambuka said, to the rolling, undulating hills, green hills of Tambia. My heartfelt condolences to Padma, Yogi, Neeraj, the Lal and Narsi families. May my dear friend Brijlal rest in peace. Thank you very much.